welcome to another episode of The Scenic Route. Today, we're charting a path through the stars of 2025. And with Pluto entering Aquarius and other major planetary shifts ahead, I feel we need all the knowledge and wisdom we can get on that. And we're just gonna find out today how the stars are gonna transform our technology, our social structures, how we work and live together. So I'm really excited to be joined by Sheri Moise today and Jen Fieldman as we decode what these cosmic changes mean for our collective well-being and for our personal growth. And I don't know if it's if it's wrong to say, Sherry, but it feels like it might be one of the most pivotal years in recent astrological history.
Definitely. I would agree with that for certain that it is
Okay.
definitely a pivotal year.
I was like, maybe that's a bit of an oversell, but I already feel like so many weird things happening that are hard to place. So, Sherry, what what is really we already heard Pluto in Aquarius, but what does it mean for for our collective? Like what do we need to know about this shift? Like give us the hot tea.
You've got it. So Pluto is a slow-moving outer planet, and so all the outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, they have a huge impact on us collectively, even more than individually. So whenever a outer planet changes signs, it's a big deal. And Pluto stays in a sign anywhere from 15 to 20 years. So we call it a generational shift when there is a movement of signs. So we got a little taste of Pluto in Aquarius in 2023, but the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was 1777 and 1798. So quite a long time ago. It's 246 year or something cycle. So it's very pivotal. It represents a generational shift. We're each born with Pluto in a particular sign. So a generation, 20 years of humans will be born in this energy and will be imprinted on it. And then those of us living through this will also be imprinted in a different way.
So when we say okay, Pluto has especially an influence on how we kind of live and work together, like what can we expect on how the collective power structures are about to shift?
Yes, I think the biggest transition is from hierarchical power,
Oh,
Capricornian energy, to decentralized, people-driven systems. And already it is not even January 1st. Pluto went direct in Aquarius in November, and I meant to write them down, but I think there have been four or five, right, governmental systems and structures that have collapsed
yeah.
in on the world stage. So that is since Pluto firmly went direct in November. So we will see, and it's kind of that energy of power to the people, of people saying, we need to be seen, we need to be heard. It can't all be about the one
We are the
percenters or
99%.
correct.
Mm.
Correct. So, but how do you do that? That's the question that Pluto and Aquarius is going to answer is how do you create an I within the we and still make it feel fair and equitable? And so that is the biggest thing. It's a focus on people and ideologies versus systems and structures.
Mm. Which is kind of, I'm like all for power to the people. Like if you're like a regular on the Scenic Grab podcast, that does not come as a surprise. But at the same time, I'm really a systems girl. Like I'm a systems theory person. So I'm like, we follow systems. So how can we how will this all go together, right? Like, will they just go poof like we had in
No, so
Syria?
it's
But
from a
how does it shift? Like,
so the goal would be, scalable, decentralized models is I think what if you were being
mm,
very so, but it needs to be um everyone needs the access, it, it, sustainability, ethical practices. I think all of those pieces. Under Capricorn, it was he who has the most wins kind of energy, where
Mm.
here it's, you know, if Jen puts in this much and Jennifer puts in this much and Sheri puts it like it should be, it doesn't mean everybody gets an equal piece of the pie, in my opinion. We'll
So
see
we're
how
talking
it falls
equity.
out.
We're talking
But
equity.
we're talking more equity, but
Yeah.
equitable access
Yeah.
versus I think what people get scared about is that Pluto and Aquarius could mean, decentralization of everything, of, universal income and things like that. But Pluto wants it to be right and have depth, and it's transformative. It's transforming the way we think about community, the way we think about governments. It's just, we've seen it slowly shift over the past few years, and it will impact technology. We're already seeing that.
Mm.
AI is huge. So Aquarius rules a lot of things, not just communities, it also rules technology. So that those AI driven tools, medicine, we're going to see huge what's the word? Innovations
Hmm.
and movement in the field of medicine via
Oh,
technology.
yeah. Yeah, this is a really interesting point you're bringing up, right? Like we have different sectors of society. We had like government, which we already said, like we had overruled governments already in the
Hmm.
past months. Economy we will see shifts, and not right away. Like some might be right away, but some also will be slowly, right? I mean, Pluto is going
It's
to stay in
it's not an
Aquarius for
over
quite some time, right? Like,
This is not an overnight thing. We've seen some quick things happen, but this is a 20-year transit.
mm,
So who we are, how we show up in each, country and individually is a slow unfolding. Pluto will unearth things. It's what it's known for, but things will fall away slowly and then new advancements, new structures. Um, we've already seen an attempt at like digital currency, right? So
mm-hmm,
that could be something that is something that will be a part of that conversation and evolution. But
yeah,
trying to implement a digital currency under a hierarchical structure appeared to be a little challenging, right?
yeah.
So here we are.
Mm. Okay, so what what other like major things will be happening? What other transits or what are other planets are moving and influencing us next year? Like what do we need to be aware of?
So the other big shift that's occurring that is an 18-month cycle is what we call the nodes. So these are, Jen Fieldman is very excited about
Yes,
this.
yes. I'm like,
Um,
okay, you need to explain later, Chan, why you're excited. I have no idea about the notes, so please, like,
so the
Sherry, please.
Sure. So personally, we have a nodal placement in our chart. These are points in space, lunar nodes.
Yeah.
The north node represents what we're moving towards. The south node represents what we're moving away from. So we have collectively, we have a shift that happens every 18 months. And then each of us is born with, a particular lunar placement, the nodal placement.
Mm.
The very interesting thing about the nodes is, and astrology in general, the gift of astrology is it's cyclical. We're constantly, we can know what a transit might look like because we've seen it before. Now, big long ones, nobody's lived through Pluto and Aquarius because we're none of us lived 247 years, but
Yeah, yeah.
many of us have lived through multiple nodes, the north node being in Pisces, which is what it's shifting into. So we can look at data from
Mm.
18 years ago, 36 years ago. Every 18 years, it comes back to that sign. So we can get data on what's happening with real estate. We can get data on what's happening with marketing. So for those of your listeners that are entrepreneurs, this is probably the most pivotal transit for your marketing and planning. because the nodes really give us insight into what's happening from a marketing
Mm.
perspective.
Oh, that's
Um,
interesting. What do we need to know when it, because I know a lot of people listening in are entrepreneurs, run their own businesses. Like, what do we need to know? What do we need to be aware of in addition to like Pluto and Aquarius with the nodes that can help shape our marketing next year?
so the North Node has been and will be until, January, mid-January, let's say January 2025. It's been in Aries. And in Aries, it was quick wins. It was tell me you need to fix my problem and fix it right now. And I don't want to wait for an answer, kind of a thing. And we were moving away from that Libra energy of things have to be polished and perfect and beautiful, right? First time we saw
Oh,
Google Doc
okay. I'm already
sales
seeing like the
pages,
Instagram influencers dying out. I'm
right?
like, yes.
So we shift from perfectly polished to more authentic and heartfelt.
Mm,
So instead of know, like, trust, we are really shifting to trust first. So how do you build trust? How do you, storytelling is a great way to build trust.
hmm.
Um, and it's in Pisces, it's about honoring the intuitive side. It's about the creative side. It's about it has to resonate with me on a emotional, personal level. Whereas before I was like, I have this problem, I need a band-aid, give it to me. Now
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, wait a minute, do I really trust you? Like, am I
Yeah.
gonna, do I want to lean in? Do I really like you? We really have to be there. So really connecting with your audience's deeper needs. This is going to be for most people in my world, they're very excited about this because bro marketing, which the depths
Yeah.
of that is kind of fading
This is the
away.
word we don't name on this platform.
um so scarcity tactics and all of those things
Yeah.
aren't going to work as well, which means we need longer launch runways,
Yeah.
which means we need to
More
really
stamina
be
for sure to do anything.
people will likely take longer to make a decision, or they'll make a decision based on their gut,
Yeah,
which
then
we
it's
want to
like
honor
snap.
that. Then it's like
Yeah.
that. So it is progress over perfection, because if we're moving away from Virgo in this
Mm,
case, everything doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be totally detailed. If I go, oh, Jen Fieldman has this thing, and I'm really leaning in, and I find myself, you know, for those of us that are generators, that need to lean in, to feel a gut response, that's going to be really important and
mm.
powerful. So, um, it's a big shift. It's a big change, I think. And it's how we evolve. It's the thing we move towards next. We've learned how to
Mm.
identify the quick win. Now we have to learn how to identify how to really trust our intuition and our gut.
Which this is beautiful. I'm gonna love this. I love this journey for us. In like and also it's like saying, okay, we know Pluto and Aquarius, like power to the people. Could we see for marketing in 2025 like a strong and more authentic focus on community building?
Yes, some of the things, if we're looking at what Pluto will bring from a business perspective, besides cutting edge technology, how do
Mm,
you implement AI and do it in an ethical way, kind of a thing. But, how does that transport more community driven offerings that may be asking your audience really what they want, co-creating those offers with your audience or business partners for shared impact, private communities. We're seeing already private podcasts, right? Like
mm-hmm.
where there's this sense of, you know, this community. So, um, also programs that focus on a sustainable business versus like this is going to help you over the long haul,
Mm-hmm.
not just right now.
Get rid quick schemes and
Yeah. So, and we also want to empower clients to take ownership, right?
mm,
We moved when the North Node was in Taurus. It was a lot of done for you. Under Aries, it was get me a quick win, so shorter programs. I think, Pluto and Aquarius will invite people to like I I don't, I don't, as your mentor or coach, it's not my responsibility. You need to take personal responsibility for your part in this. That may be a little more DIY, maybe not, but there's to empower people to own their results and trust that they can do it, but that you have that answer.
Mm.
And
So,
more interactive. So I was
yeah.
saying to a client this morning, we were looking at an event and I said, really hot seat coaching, showing, putting that other person central focused,
Hmm.
um, so that you're not talking at people, you're sharing the stage with people.
Which will also help you build trust quite quickly, right? Like it
Exactly.
goes hand in hand with that. I'm let's leave the business side for a hot minute. We already touched upon it. You said that okay, like 2025, like your inner voice, listening to your intuition, your knowledge, that will come up. That will be something to really like hone in and focus on. What other shifts in like collective mental health and like wellness approaches
Oh,
are we
lots
likely
of
to
that.
see?
Yeah, for sure. I think both the North Node in Pisces as well as Pluto and Aquarius are going to, unfortunately, I think that what the North Node in Pisces tells us is that we will probably see more mental health issues, things that people have just been getting by just
Mm,
to get through because their nervous system has been so impacted. That energy, as it falls away, people, unfortunately, if they don't have tools in their toolbox, are going to really, really need them. So I think we're going to see a boom in the interest in therapy and different therapies and counseling and support. But what does that look like? Again, centering the client
mm-hmm.
versus centering the modality. I think that's one way I might look at it. But they call this the bottom, right? Of the nodes move backwards. So this is not going to be an easy year. I mean, I'm not a astrologer who likes to predictive, but when I say it's not going to be easy, we're meant to like break it down, pull everything away to get to the root, right? So
Mm,
this is a time to get to the root of it. So if life's scenic view on the scenic road we're on, right, doesn't feel like it's not the scenery you want, then how do you find your lane? How do you find that turn off that's going to help you get to a scenic view that you want? That's going to be and nobody's going to do it for us, right? But it's
yeah.
acknowledging where we're at and making a choice to create a plan, take some action. There's a lot of energy between this Aries and Pisces axis this year.
Mm.
Um, all of the outer planets are changing signs. That's a big deal. It's a lot of energy.
Do we have other
Um,
planets? I think there's ne Neptune and Jupiter are also shifting and
Neptune
majorly,
and
I think.
Jupiter, Neptune and Jupiter are shifting, Saturn is shifting, Uranus is shifting. They're all shifting.
Oh, okay. What doesn't that create a lot of like not maybe tension might be a strong word, but like unease? And you're feeling like a bit
It's
on edge and like no, is it
yeah,
just me?
it's no, I think the biggest one is you got Saturn going into Aries and Jupiter in Cancer in the middle of 2025. I think as humans, this is where we can live in the how do I do both energy. Saturn's like, get shit done. Pardon my
Mm.
French. Um, and Cancer's like, but it needs to like align with my values. And I need to take care of my
I need
family
to feel
and
good.
I need to feel good.
Mm.
And Jupiter in Cancer is a power. Jupiter expands things, it makes things bigger. And so Jupiter in Cancer is going to foster that emotional connection, which is also you've got North Node and Pisces doing the same thing. And then nurturing relationships. Whereas Saturn in Aries wants structures and clear goals. Those two things don't feel incredibly, they are and they could be, right? If you know what you value, if you
Mm.
know what you want, then using
You can
Saturn in
harness that
Aries energy,
energy.
you can harness it.
Mm.
Otherwise, it's going to feel like, you know, we're beating up on each other. And I know Jen Fieldman deals with this like on the regular in her clients, right? Where people are trying to should themselves into doing things
Oh, we love
when on the
shooting
inside,
ourselves.
they're like, no, this doesn't
Mm.
feel right.
Okay, so we need to get more radical in that sense in 2025.
I think it's about using the energy to create a solid plan, right? But one that aligns with your values. You're
Mm.
not shitting yourself, where you're really tuned into that connection to you, the connection to your emotional intelligence, your intuitive intelligence, and honoring both and. Uh,
Mm. Jen, I'm calling you in. As a business owner, how are you prepping for 2025? Do you like, I mean, I know you do a lot of things. You do human design, you have knowledge of numerology, you're not unknown with astrology. So like how do you prep for 2025?
So one of the things I'm trying not I was not prepared for this question.
Excuse me, this is a conversational podcast.
No. So one of the things I have been doing is so I have to, for my own sanity, approach planning in a very like a light touch way. Because if I'm not someone who can put in like here's my yearly financial goal and then here's what I need to make each quarter. That will stress me the out.
Which
So
yeah.
yeah, so I have been approaching 2025 as a lot of the memes say online, like very carefully, like very
Testing the waters.
in the waters. But I'm also not letting it, as much as one can, scare me. So one thing that I hadn't realized until I was prepping for this call is that in numerology, so normally I focus on someone's personal year and personal month because I feel like that energy is so much more in not even intense, but you'll feel your personal cycles more than the collective. However, Sheri was talking about Pluto. We're moving into a year nine collectively. And so nines in 2025. So nines are all about completion and reflections. Um, it's it's completing things before like a fresh 9 year cycle begins in 2026. And so what I think is could be really interesting too is just taking that into account. So thinking about 2025, I'm in a personal year 7 and it's like okay, that's my 7 energy, but there's a lot of stuff completing. So it's kind of like treat yourself gently is what I
Mhm.
am attempting to do with all of my fire energy. Almost my entire astrological chart is on fire, big fire. So my preparation for business is to move gently with light touch.
Well, this is generally speaking good advice to move gently with and hold yourself gently, regardless whether you're like numerology is bullshit. Like this is generally good advice. Like
It is,
we treat ourselves way too harshly in most cases.
yeah.
Sherry, how are you prepping?
yeah, I actually sent an email out this morning and I talked about, slowly rolling into 2025, right? There's a meme, instead of finishing this year strong, why don't we finish the year soft? Why don't we finish the year restful and grateful for making it through another crazy cycle on Earth? Like, I, you know, I honestly, the year end, new year, new you, all of that really honestly triggers me at this point. Not as much as it used to, but I was in corporate sales and marketing when New Year, New You was invented by, was a marketing
Yeah, we're all
scheme
here
in,
partly to blame for this. We all have a
yes,
background in marketing.
we were all part of that mess. And what I love about astrology is I don't feel that pressure because I use the cycles and the seasons, right? So I'm looking at this Capricorn cycle, which happens to include the new year, and I'm like, okay, what can I learn from it? Like I've completed 9 months of the astrological year. What do I now know? What systems and structures do I need in place to move towards where I want to go? But I'm not like, oh, I have to complete it in a calendar year. That is a construct of the Industrial Revolution. And I really believe it doesn't serve us. We really, you know, we're meant to work in seasons. And this winter season, which if you're in the Northern Hemisphere we're in, is so valuable for going within. Yet we're told, like, get off your butt and go do, and we're not ready to do. So I like try to, this time of year, I put myself in a bit of a bubble. And then I also stand on my pulpit and say, if you feel motivated, not everybody's motivated by goals. I'm motivated by the process. Jen's motivated by, I know this because I know Jen's chart. But we're both motivated by process. And we're both
Yeah,
five
this
one.
podcast is called the Scenic Route, so I mean,
Yeah,
it's pretty obvious.
everybody probably listening is motivated by process. So but the standard line is you need to set a goal and move towards it. When I just want to take that next step. Not that I don't want to have a big picture of where I'm going, but it's based on. So if I'm looking at take all this, pull it together here. If I'm looking at the astrology, what's really important? That I really, really honor my intuition, that I really, really stand in my value, know my why, and let those three things drive my decision making. If I were going to distill it
Yeah,
down.
no, absolutely. I love this. Like, how can with we said, okay, we're gonna have this rise of intuition, and I'd say we'll see an increasing need for emotional intelligence and possibly spiritual awareness, like spiritual in whatever sense you define it, spiritual awareness. So, like, how can businesses adapt to this like increasing need for emotional intelligence and spiritual awareness? Jen,
I'm gonna tap in. So
please.
I think one thing that would be really interesting to see if this happens or not, but also just as business owners, is in human design. So slightly over from astrology, 50% of the population has what's called emotional authority, which means they make decisions based on emotions, and they have to what's called ride a wave. So they don't make in the moment snap decisions, they need time. And so I think as we move into more of this emotional intelligence, understanding either for the 50% who do make decisions that way, learning how to honor that and how to adjust their honestly systems. But it's also something that we as business owners who are not, so you, Sheri, and I are not, we don't have emotional authority. So it's understanding working with clients and our own operations. Okay, hey, do I need to give people more time to evaluate things? Do I need to give people, or even just the sales process, do people need more time to get to trust me first and to think about a service we're offering? I think that's something that, I mean, the curious part of me is like, oh, I can't wait to see if people start to take it, people start to play into that. But I think it's also just a good tip for all of us to start to think, oh, okay, like where does emotion, whether it's intelligence or authority or even our regulation, how is that playing into our business? And how can we lean into it or just soften towards it versus the typical corporate type mentality that some of us, as I point to myself, are still trying to, get rid of. especially at this time of year when it's like, hurry up, we gotta start fresh.
I feel like you just nailed it. Like that is I mean, in terms of that's the North Node in Pisces. That's
I just
Jupiter
wanted to
in
say, isn't
Cancer.
that like, doesn't that play
That
into
is
it?
it. And if
Yeah.
people, here's what happens. Here's what I've watched over since, I've been tracking the nodal transits. And for those of you in business, your inbox starts to fill with things. And 6 or 9 months from now, people are going to start to say they had to shift their launch style because it stopped working.
Mm.
And so if you're going to continue with the hard hit, gotta sign up now, here's your aspiring bonuses and all of
Like
those
those
things. It's
countdowns that like run
countdown
down.
timers, like no false urgency under North Node
Mm.
and Pisces. So what Jen's saying is you're going to need to honor people's decision-making styles and give people a longer runway. So that can look like a lot of different things, but how do you build trust? How do you build true connection? On the other side, just as a PSA, we will likely see some, on the spiritual world or in that realm. The last time in the 60s, the North Node was in Pisces, and we saw a lot of cults and a lot of, but you can see how that might happen, right? You can
Oh yeah.
see if people are trying to create an emotional connection, they look to someone to get it instead of fostering it within themselves. And so there'll be some of that, and we can see it on the political stage, but it won't always work. But how do we nurture folks? People are going to look at your website and not just take things at face value anymore. Like, well, what makes her qualified for that is going to be the question too. Um, and can she hold space for me? Can this person give me what I need without enabling? I mean, we don't want to be enabling people, but what do I need? How do you learn? Know thyself. How do you learn? How do you work? So does, maybe what I offer fits somebody, but not someone else because it's just not the right fit. But no more. Ideally, we're stopping round pegs and square holes.
Mm. But it's an interesting point you brought up, Sheri. Like, we're gonna look at someone's website or in social media channel, or whatever, and be like, what is this person qualified to work to do this work for me, whatever it might be. Where how do we approach this? Are we approaching this with just kind of like general gut sense, or let's call them like traditional qualifications, do they still hold merit, or is it something like, I don't care if this person has a whatever PhD, I just need to like trust my gut. Do they go hand in hand? What can we expect? What do you think?
I think they go hand in hand. I think that words, I think you're going to see a lot more video, because I can connect with you. I can read much better someone's energy and someone's if I, there was a whole big thing this last year on Instagram about the faceless videos, right?
Yeah, faceless accounts. Hmm.
Those you could get away with that under North Node and Aries because I was just listening for the thing I needed. Now I'm listening and looking for connection. And so I don't think so that would be a really practical example. So if on my website I have testimonials, I could write whatever I want, but maybe I need video. So you
Yeah.
can see my clients, and my clients name their own website. So you can go see that this person is actually real. Like people are going to, especially with the advent, the more AI gets involved, the easier it is to create a lot of things. People are going to be putting it through a filter still. It's
Yeah.
great. We can move forward with technology, but with, and we will, Uranus is going to move into Gemini. We're going to have rapid. You thought last year was off the charts, I think, rapid innovation in technology, communication, how we share information, but then the challenge of how do you manage the data, the privacy, the connectivity, right? So it's always both and. So, you know, I think we need to be prepared for changes in online platforms, changes in how we go to market. But so interactive content, short form video, gamified experiences, people can have an experience with you,
Hmm.
I think is key. I need to, again, we're back to trust first, then know and like.
And at the same time, we said it before, right? We're moving away from over polished, which will
Correct.
gives us a lot of ease, right? Because video content, if you're looking for the polished end of thing, end of the spectrum, is so time consuming, and it's
Yeah.
really a pain in the ass for most entrepreneurs. So it would be nice to have more of a documentary. I'm just pulling out my phone kind of vibe.
And I think you're absolutely right, Jennifer. It is that kind of vibe. Like this is just me in my everyday life doing life. And we're already
Mm-hmm.
seeing that. I've seen with, some reflections from folks in my world who've said that their videos, their reels that are performing are the ones where they're just them, where they're in their
Mm-hmm.
pajamas or, whatever. It's not polished, it's not overdone. Because people are going to question if it's polished and overdone.
Yeah. Okay, I want to. There are two kind of like areas where we haven't touched upon yet that are for the collective. And I'm like, okay, we have to get them done. I'm really like curious. So one is kind of like personal growth and relationships, right? Like with all these transits happening, like we kind of like this we have to navigate between our digital connection. We heard Uranus and Gemini, a lot of rapid development and on the technology front, but at the same time, North Node in Pisces, a lot of spiritual intimacy of sorts, if we can call it that. Like how will our relationship patterns change? What do we need to know for our relationships with our community and also for our like one-to-one relationships?
I think if we look at both Neptune in Pisces and the North Node in Pisces, it's exactly what you just said. It's that depth of
Mm,
relationship, that depth of connection, to remind us that we're part of something bigger than just ourselves. And I think that's the thing that when I talk to people that they feel most lost around right now is they feel like they're not seen, they're on an island, they just have to get by. And so the world's problems just feel too big to solve, right?
yeah.
And so um it, we we're all living beings, right, here on Earth. We all need water. We're made up of water. So these signs are water signs. So they're very emotional, as well. So I think that, what's real? What relationships feel real to you? What
Mm-hmm.
relationship do you really feel um, add value to your life and honor your whole being?
Mm.
We're moving away from that energy of what can you do for me
Okay. Yeah.
to what do I need to honor within myself to get my needs met. And that covers everything, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
all parts of our world and relationships. Um, so the more I think you'll hear more about trauma response. I think you'll hear more about that's very Piscean energy. Where are we? Because the goal here is to heal, right?
Mm-hmm.
The goal here is to heal what is broken.
Mm-hmm.
And so that then we can move into this, you know, next phase of Aquarian energy. We're gonna have a lot of Aquarian energy in 2026. So we need to be ready for it. How do you be the I within the we if you don't feel whole within yourself?
Yeah. Like, if you cannot be in community, right? Like, you need to have a reciprocal understanding of what it means to be in community, of give and
Yes.
take. And also from a structural system point of view, we have seen so many third spaces vanishing over the past years, decades. We have no more space really to meet besides work and like hanging out online. So it would be really interesting to see, okay, how things like community centers, coffee shops, like free public spaces, right? Where you can go without consuming anything, how those will kind of like come back and need to come back
Yes.
also for us to have this community feeling.
Yeah, I have chills when you say that. Like, I think that's very much, whereas it's this balance, right, between innovation, technology, and humanness. How
Mm.
do we stay human, in a world where we're being told all the jobs will be taken by technology? Where is that human connection? You can start to think as a business owner, like, oh my God, a chat GPT could do my job, could read your chart for, and whatever. But what's true about that? Like, we still need that human connection and to be seen. So I love that. I do agree. I think, you know, there will be more retreats and spaces where people want to be in community and finding right communities. There's a lot of things written about potentialities in Pluto and Aquarius long term. Um, More smaller communities, self-governing could be a thing. Who knows what it will all look like? But in the short term, I think people are ready to get out from behind their screens. People are ready to have more connection, and um, we can have both. And it's just a process.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited. Maybe this whole like retreat, I feel like if we've seen so much of it in the online entrepreneurial world, like retreat here and retreat there, and I'm still kind of like, ugh, about it. But when done right, I could feel this really be an amazing experience. So don't, yeah, if ever you have this itching for doing a retreat, then maybe 2025, 2026 might could be a good year for it.
Yeah, I think it's just gathering people together. I've seen a lot of like just
Mm.
gather around the table, share stories, share food, share. It doesn't have to be. I think it's a different type of retreat. Whereas if it was North Node in Taurus, we would have been all luxurious, done
Yeah,
for
yeah.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this is more like it doesn't have to be. I mean, it can be any range of
Yeah.
experience, but
Yeah.
but its connection is the community, um,
This makes me
is the very
excited
thing.
to maybe relaunch the retreat. I was planning one a few years back. This might okay. Okay, I'm like okay, this I need to like write this down for future for like okay, whenever I get it feels right. So one last aspect. Few people are curious about this one too. How might all these transits and shifts affect our relationship with money and resources and wealth? We cannot not talk about this.
Yeah, I mean that's the big thing because if Pluto in Aquarius is going to shift to more decentralized in some case, if we use that word very loosely, but um, you know, if things need to have broader accessibility, which is a theme. So how do you make money, currency more accessible? Um, Digital currency it'll have another round. I mean, there's what that ends up looking like, I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, these emerging industries, Web3, blockchain, all of that is very Aquarius energy. So I don't know. I look at, I have a 6-year-old granddaughter, and the world will look completely different by the time, in another 10, 15 years. And we could all look back and say the same thing, but, you know, the rapid innovation of technology and the breakdown of these hierarchical structures, what does it look like? I think you're going to see a lot of people trying to hold on for dear life to what is comfortable. And how do we flesh out what works for everyone and is safe and fair and all of those things? It's going to take time. It's not going, I do think that if we look at the history, I went back and looked because I was very curious. The North Node in Pisces aligns with a lot of recessions. It
Oh,
aligned with the Big Depression. Um, in the US. And so I do think it is the bottom, like I was saying, we move backwards. So I do think it financially, housing markets, things like that, we likely will see a push downward before we figure out how to move it back up.
Mm. So the
I don't know if
eggs
that
will
totally
not get
answers your.
cheaper in the short term.
Well, I think, some markets will crash, some, I mean, not like stock market, but
Yeah,
those
yeah.
things are going to change. I'm very, very curious. Like, I don't have an answer. I don't know what that looks like. Stock
Mm.
market survived a lot of things, but will it survive Pluto and Aquarius in 20 years? I mean, I don't know
Yeah, I mean,
what that looks
in the
like.
1700s,
It's
we
never
had the
been
French
through Aquarius.
Revolution. So we,
Well, the US is having a Pluto return.
Mhm.
So, and we can see what's happening to it on the world stage, how it shifts. So power, that shift, those government structures that don't work. I mean, it's fascinating to watch. You know, the structure of the US dollar, will the US dollar be the leading currency? Who, maybe not, you know?
Mm.
So it'll be new infrastructures, will come into being slowly, but the North Node in Pisces, I think in the short term, if we're talking 2025, lets us know that we're not, we're probably not going into a bull market kind of an
Mm.
energy.
Yeah.
Um, but
Oh,
again, it's an interesting time. So,
yeah.
but we need the goal here, I think, with Pluto and Aquarius is to think beyond the individual
Yeah.
and innovate for the collective. That's the goal, right? How do we do both and?
Yeah, how we
And
do
so,
both personal and collective transformation. Like we're moving away from this me neoliberalism and be like, okay, we need our personal growth needs to like swap over into the collective. It is
yeah,
time.
yeah,
Mm.
I mean, again, it's a long transit. And this year will be interesting, like I said, because of so much going on the Aries Pisces axis. You have Neptune in Aries, you have Saturn in Aries, still saying, okay, hold on, we still got to get shit done, you know, we still, and not be blind about it. Um, we can't just be all, because if we just sit in our emotional world all the time, and we probably wouldn't move the meter, right? So I find the astrology fascinating from that perspective because there's
Mm.
always this like push pull, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like it's a like when you take a kid learning how to walk, right? And you're just kind of guiding them along. The astrology is here going, okay, we got Pluto and Aquarius over here pushing on this side. We got Saturn Aries pushing on this side. Make sure we're upright and we're moving forward. And seeing things from all these different perspectives.
Which again, like I think really closes our conversation up nicely when we circle back to the very beginning that goes to when all these pushes and pulls, the most key thing you can do is hold yourself kindly and compassionately, giving yourself grace and like remembering like these celestial shifts. We're like it's not about predicting the future or anything like that. We're just it's just about understanding the energies that are available to us and how can we both navigate personal and collective transformation like that, right?
Absolutely. And each person is impacted differently, right?
Yeah.
It's these transits happen in your own chart in a particular area of life. And so that area of life will show up, for each person differently. So happen to have both of your charts up. Um, so for Jennifer Walter, it's Pluto in Aquarius is happening in your ninth house, which is, you know, what you stand for, your values. It's also about travel and things like that. So one of the things I might say as well, it'd be interesting to watch how Jennifer's message deepens or the things you really get, how you in teach and connect with your community and share your knowledge, what that ends up looking like.
Yeah.
Because that will be, and then it will move
This has already
in a bit.
started. This is very interesting that
Yes.
you said
Yeah.
that. Yes, I've grown. I don't know, I cannot really say this. Like I do TikTok because I think it's very much fun. Um and there was I always felt it was kind of silly to do like to really show up as a sociologist, which I am. Like, but anyway. And the first post I did has now gained like 150,000 views and gained me like over 2,000 followers. Like, it's really interesting. It's been wild.
That is very much, that's very Pluto and Aquarius. I love that for you. Yeah, but see, this is how it's showing up for you, and then that will be what
Mhm.
it unearths for you. It'll be where the
Yeah.
discomfort comes in, but then it's pushing you to do the next thing. Because whatever you're doing now, eventually, when it moves into your 10th house of career, it's going to impact your career. It's going to impact your business in a big way. It's
Mm,
going to take some time to get there. It's not happening, but sooner than most, for you in particular. So it's fascinating to me because I always love watching how it shows up for people.
mm,
Whereas our friend Jen Fieldman, it is leaving her sixth house, of which is for her ruled by Capricorn. So how her daily work, her routines, her health, um, and it's sitting on the opposite side of her, what in astrology we call her ascendant or her rising sign. So it's how she shows up in the world in relationship to herself, in relationship to others. Um, Pluto is conjunct your descendant right now, by the way, my friend. Um, so it's really asking her, what does she want her relationships to look like, her partnerships? And they get to be outside of the box. They get to be more Aquarian. She doesn't have to do it the traditional way, which is her
mm.
seventh house of
Hello,
partnership is
permission
ruled that way.
slip.
Her seventh house is ruled that, but again, everybody's built for these times in a different way. So knowing the area of life, and then what might that mean for Jen's business? That may mean some unconventional partnerships or communities that she partners with, or could mean a lot of different things. But Pluto's going to force her to do it different, just like it's been forcing her to do her health and well-being and daily work. This is why she does what she does. Like I've known her now for a couple of years, and like I can see her, what she stands for and what she talks about in her business. Like you don't have to work like everybody else. What is your latest thing called? Your how to build a work plan that's
Oh, the bare minimum work plan.
yes, yes. So this is why Jen has a bare minimum work plan, which she came up with when Pluto went into Aquarius. By the way, I think we could probably time it to that. But because she was tired of the Capricornian structure, right, corporate structure way of working, she's giving everybody permission to work differently. But see, this is why I love the astrology. It like shows you, right, how things are.
Yeah.
We can't always predict how it's going to show up, but we know the area of life.
Yeah.
And for business owners, I think it's really helpful to know where those focuses are going to be for you so that as you build a plan, now Jen can go, okay, I know that over the next however long I do this thing, partnerships are going to be something I get to innovate and look
Mm.
at differently. You know, we look at these longer term transits and we can tune in.
Oh, okay. So I have one last question. I'm going to save this one up because this is the perfect segue into if you want to make Sheri very excited to read your chart and help you figure out what this means for your business in 2025. Sheri, how can people find you online?
So I have a YouTube channel. So that's where I do weekly, typically, although it has not been as of late. So just at Sheri Moise Business Astrology, Sheri Moise. Or I am at Sheri Moise on Instagram or just sherimoise.com. That's where things are. You'll find all the things.
Perfect. And Jen, if people want to hear more about numerology and human design, where can people find you?
They can find me mostly on the Instagram at Jen Fieldman, one N. One N in Jen, I should say, and also jenfieldman.com.
Perfect. So before I let you go, this might be a trick question. So I'll go with Sheri first. This feels fairer, more fair. Sheri, if you would like summarize your highlights, your key things for 2025 in one sentence. Go.
In 2025, I'm choosing to let my intuition take lead and my intellect follow.
Oh, ooh, now that got me chills. I love this one. Jen, what about you?
Tough. I think I'm going, okay, I got it. I'm actually gonna go with lean more into your inner authority according to your human design. Because that's how that ties into trusting our intuition, the Pisces North Node, that type of stuff, and the Pluto and Aquarius. So I would actually do that.
Oh, that's very interesting. Yes, I love like blending both because you can take from each modality what serves you and ditch the rest, right? There's no competition amongst any of those. Like we're not doing this here. So yeah, like remember, right? We've said it before, like we don't know what's gonna happen. We're just excited, we're joyful about what's coming, and we hold ourselves, yeah, with kindness and compassion. And thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge. And we'll see how, I don't know, this collective wisdom will light our individual paths in the new year. Thank you so much for being with me here.
Thank you for having us.